All right, it is that time of year, the hottest time of year, unfortunately, but also time for Panthers training camp. Joining me to talk about it is Julian Council from Locked On Panthers. You can hear him on that podcast every single day now as we go into training camp. So I guess what's the vibe check of Panthers fans and anybody who's paying attention to this team as we enter this training camp for 2023?
Positive vibes only, Nick. Everyone's feeling good. You have a new head coach, you have a new quarterback, and there's real hope here in Carolina. I know before coming on here, we were talking about how the last two seasons, fans kind of had to convince themselves that Sam Darnold was the answer, that Baker Mayfield was the answer. And I was sitting up here last year telling you that I felt like Baker Mayfield was an upgrade from Sam Darnold. As we saw, that was not the case. But now with Bryce Young, after the Panthers moved up to #1 overall and traded up to get him, and then taking some other receivers also in free agency and through the draft, they have a rebuilt offense. And Frank Reich here in town, the vibes are far more positive and hopeful than they've been the last couple years where, let's just be honest with ourselves, a lot of fans were actively lying to themselves about what this team could actually accomplish, where now there seems to be an actual solid foundation and plan moving forward this 2023 season.
Yeah, and I don't want to go back and bring up the old tapes from the last few years because I know I'm on there saying the same thing you were about being an upgrade, and even back to Sam Darnold. But does it feel like, even though we haven't seen a Frank Reich coached Carolina Panthers team, even though we haven't seen Bryce Young take the field in the NFL, does it feel like at least the organization has a direction, has a sense of a plan moving forward, more than they did the last 2 years?
Absolutely. I wondered the last couple seasons, especially at quarterback, which is the most important position in football, especially at the NFL, what exactly were they trying to do? With Teddy Bridgewater, it made sense with Joe Brady, that offense that he had played well the year prior in New Orleans, so it made sense to bring him in. But after that, they have not shown really any semblance of a plan. It was trying to trade for Watson. It was trying to trade for Stafford. It was landing on Sam Darnold. Okay, maybe he can be reclaimed here in Carolina. That never really happened. And last year, when the Mayfield issue, or at least the trade fell day two, it was like, okay, let's bring in Matt Corral. But actually, he's not here to be the competition to Sam Darnold. So you understand, they're kind of going back and forth to whether they want to be more of a rebuild, or they want to win now. We haven't really known. But now it feels like they're at least trying to build for the next season plus to see what they have. By getting a head coach who has actual NFL experience, getting a coaching staff that has a ton of experience, you have to give David Tepper, the owner in Carolina, who, let's just be honest, messed up with the first hire he had here in Carolina with Matt Rule, and then also probably keeping Marty Herney for a season longer than he did. But now you have a general manager in Scott Fitterer who has long-term NFL experience, has been here, been able to bring some players in, and now you have a head coach in Frank Reich who has an offensive system that will fit the new model of the NFL, and now you have a quarterback. So they went the conventional route of getting a head coach, drafting a quarterback early, and then bringing the staff that actually has been in the NFL and has had success in the National Football League as well.
All right, so with Bryce Young, I mean, we're not going to realistically know what he's got until it's the regular season.
Right.
What do you think will be some like benchmarks or milestones you'd like to see him hit in training camp, you know, against his own defense and a little bit against the Jets defense as well in these practices?
It's hard to say, honestly, because I know Frank Reich was saying back through mandatory minicamp back in June, you don't know until the pads come on, and we really don't really know until, you know, the actual pads come on during the regular season, what Bryce Young's going to look like week one, as we presume he'll likely be the starter when they head down to I-85 South to Atlanta. As far as benchmarks, you would like to see him take care of the football, be able to have an understanding and control of the offense, and to keep hearing the glowing comments from his team, especially leaders on the other side of the football like Brian Burns, like Shaq Thompson, who spoke glowingly about Bryce Young back at minicamp and back during OTA. So those are some of the things that you're looking to see. Him gaining the respect and the leadership of the team, understanding the offense, and taking care of the football, which has been, of course, an issue for that position group the last 5 years.
You know, we've seen some national outlets absolutely tear this offense and its construction to pieces. Where do you fall on what they've done? Obviously, you know, it might be a year or two till they get that bona fide #1 receiver on the roster, if it's not already. Certainly on paper, it's not. What do you think of the pieces they put around Bryce?
Yeah, it's difficult to kind of know how to really feel when you look at last year, how inept they were for the first 5 or 6 weeks, and then going to more of a power running game and getting the best out of Sam Darnold that you could possibly expect at that point in time in his career, where they truly overachieved. So when you look at now that they have a new quarterback, the same offensive line back, a running back in Miles Sanders, you would look at as an upgrade over what they had last year in the combination of Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. You see positive pieces, but also understanding that it's going to be a work in progress with the wide receiver group, where Adam Thielen, still think he can be a solid player, had 700 yards receiving last year at age 32. Now at age 33, what can he provide you? And there's a reason why the Vikings wanted to move off of him after having an 11-win season last year there in Minnesota. But also you look at DJ Chark's, the guy who's been a Pro Bowler. but has dealt with injuries. And that's kind of been the issue for a lot of receivers. Terrace Marshall showed some signs last year, but he struggled with injuries as well. You have a young guy in Jonathan Mingo, not sure what the expectation should be for him. And then somehow back of the roster guys like Vishka Chenault, Shai Smith, still trying to make this roster. Demir Bird, who's back in Carolina. Welcome back, Demir. So it's a mishmash of guys where you look at last season towards the end where it's just DJ and Terrace, there's more options. I just don't know how quality the options are. But you also have to understand that you have Miles Sanders who can catch the ball in the backfield. At least he did it during his rookie year in Philadelphia. And you have Hayden Hurst, who fills a massive void there at tight end where that has not been a part of the offense at all the last 3 seasons in Carolina. So I'm not overwhelmed. I'm more whelmed, if anything, as far as a receiver group here. But it's a process. It's not like they had to come out and bring out, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and the best receivers in the league year 1 for Bryce Young. The hope is over time they'll do better by Bryce than, the previous regime did by Cam Newton with what they gave him during his career as a Panthers starting quarterback.
Defensively, I think the addition everybody's most excited about is the coordinator, Ejiro Evero. Are you concerned at all about bringing that 3-4 in here just right off the bat and saying we're going to make it work with the players that are already on this roster? I mean, is there any concern in just making that switch? I mean, we saw it not work under Ron Rivera as he kind of threw it as a Hail Mary in his last year.
Well, I appreciate that you brought that up because I was honestly going to go there because we've seen this happen before where, of course, the pressure was a whole lot different back then when David Tepper steps in and says, hey, Ron, I'm going to need you to run the 3-4 because that's what I'm comfortable with after being in Pittsburgh for all this time. And also, your job's on the line. I want you to call plays. It just wasn't really a system that worked out. And they wanted to bring in some veterans to help out transition. And we saw it took some time as, they struggled all year long. Even Luke Kuechly in his final season as a Panther in the NFL didn't have the typical Luke Kuechly season that we had come used to back in the 4-3 scheme that they had run under Ron Rivera during his tenure. So I do expect there to be a learning curve and some time before the Panthers are really able to get to the part where they look like a top 10 caliber defense like I think they have the potential to have. Like Brian Burns, I think probably fits him more naturally as being more of a stand-up outside linebacker. Derek Brown in the middle of that defense as a nose tackle. I feel like he'll be fine there. Possibly going to have an opportunity to be a pass rusher also in that 3-4 scheme. But everyone else, we'll see. The safety's probably fine, bringing in Von Bell and all that. We got to look at how does it work out for some of the inside linebackers? Can Frankie Louvu fit in naturally there at inside linebacker, maybe not move around as much like he did last year? So it's going to take some time for the Panthers. I wouldn't expect them to come out immediately week 1, especially against a very solid running game in Atlanta, and be this great defense. But maybe by the second half of the season, you're starting to see this team really show the potential that they have as far as potentially being one of the top half defenses in the NFL.
What are you comfortable with the Panthers paying Brian Burns on a yearly basis? And what date would you be uncomfortable about him still being unsigned?
Well, it's not my money, so I'm comfortable with them giving him whatever he wants. I would imagine he's going to get over $120 million. You look what Bradley Chubb got down in Miami after getting traded for Denver. And typically, just how the market works, folks, it's not about whether he's the best defensive end in football or not. You look at what the last guy got paid, and you want more than what that guy got paid, especially when if you're looking at Brian Burns and Bradley Chubb, Burns has been a better player in the NFL so far. Now, Nick Bosa is also in that same conversation, also being a first-round draft pick that year that Burns came out and came to Carolina, and he's also been a better player than Brian Burns. I would imagine that the two of them are looking at each other and wondering, who's going to sign first? Because I want to get more than you. Now, Nick Bosa, respectfully, probably should be getting more than Brian Burns. I'm not trying to get in the man's pocket. Burns is going to get a ton of money. He's going to be a very rich man. As far as what time would I be nervous about this, maybe this time next year. Okay. The Panthers already have another 50.
So even if it doesn't get up during this season,
I don't think it's something that has to happen now. It would be great if it happens now. I don't feel like it has to happen. I don't get any inclination that Brian Burns is going to hold out and not play. Now, he could. I don't know whether that would be what he should do or what he should not do. I don't know. I just don't feel like he's going to be someone who would sit out. I think for the best interest of the organization, it would be to get it done now. For Burns, if he stays healthy like he has throughout his career, has another big season, and maybe becomes an all-pro, it's only going to go up as far as the price tag. So if it's this time next year where they would have had to, I'd imagine, slap the franchise tag on him, not gotten a deal done by middle of July, and then head into training camp, that's when I would be concerned. So we're still about 360 days away from me having any sort of concern over the Panthers and Brian Burns' inability up until this point to get a deal done.
All right, last question. What should our realistic expectation be of this team having not made the playoffs in 5 or 6 years, a new coach, and a rookie quarterback?
Oh, wow. So new coach, new defensive scheme, rookie quarterback, new players.
Worst division in football.
Worst division in football. So if you exclude the worst division in football part, the expectation would be, well, you're not going to go to the playoffs. But because they're in the NFC South, as we saw last year, you can be bad, downright terrible for 6 weeks. And still, come week 17, be in it for the division title. I don't know it's going to be as bad this year. I feel like New Orleans, with Derek Carr, say whatever you want about him, he is an NFL caliber quarterback that can help you win games. It has taken a team to the playoff twice in Las Vegas, or I guess Oakland the first time. But either way, I feel like Derek Carr will probably have the Saints playing better, and their inability to have a healthy quarterback the last 2 seasons has pretty much derailed their chance to go in the playoffs. Atlanta, I feel like the Falcons maybe have things kind of figured out a little bit. Now, Desmond Ridder, that's certainly a massive question, but we know they can run the football defensively. It should not be a train wreck like it's been the last couple of years. Baker's playing in Tampa, so I don't really...
And fighting for that job.
And Todd Bowles is fighting for his job as well. I don't look at the Bucs as a threat. I still think it's a division that can be had by winning 9 games, maybe 10. So for the Panthers, it would be great to have an 8-9 win season. That would be, I feel like, the best case scenario. And that could be good enough to win the division potentially. That could be good enough to be right there in the wild card. But I don't think playoffs should be the expectation. The hope is that Bryce Young shows the signs that he is the answer here long-term in Carolina. The hope is that the defense, with the pieces that they brought in, that they've retained, can look like a top half of the NFL, maybe even top 10 defense by the second half of the season. And that offensively, you're not completely inept like you've been the last couple of years here in Carolina. So I think we're still... I feel like this is year 1 of a 2-year rebuild, where next year with Bryce in year 2, hopefully better receivers and a defense that hopefully maybe is still under the same scheme. We'll see with Jero Rivera, what happens with him and his potential head coaching prospects. We would think next year would be the time where it's okay. Got the quarterback, you have the coach, year 2, the division probably still going to be pretty wide open because I don't know if Tampa has their long-term guy or Atlanta and New Orleans. I look at this year, 8-9 wins. You have to feel good about that, and that could lead to the playoffs, or it could not.
Put it down in the history books. The 2023 Panthers not completely inept. That's what we're all hoping for.
Yes,
Julian Council from Locked On Panthers.